Hello, I'm Doug Marshall of Marshall Velissis. This is a recording of a July 2nd, 2021 session my partner Peter Velissis and I did on the importance of starting with a business valuation for any and all types of planning you might do as a business owner. If you have any questions, please contact us and have a great July 4th weekend. We're ready to get started. So if everybody would just put yourselves on mute yourselves so that we don't get too much background noise, that would be appreciated. My name is Doug Marshall, partner with Marshall Velissis, and joining myself today is my partner, Peter Velissis. I'm in the Seattle, Washington area, and Peter is in the Colorado Springs area. So we're going to do a short little back and forth about some of the things that we do with valuation. A few housekeeping items since we are on a Zoom call. If you do have a particular question, you can put it up in the chat box. We're not pros at this, so we may get it, we may not, but we'll do our best. We are also recording this, so if there's anything that you want to take a look at later, we'll post it up on our website and also to YouTube with a brief introduction of what's going on. At any rate, we're excited to do this because Peter and I do a lot of work with business owners, and we always start with a valuation. We wanted to talk through that, so we'll just ask everybody to put themselves on mute. Anyway, I'll give you a little background and do the introduction, and then Peter's going to set the stage for what we call the pie charts. I was inspired by Michael Collins's book that I revisited not long ago. He was the astronaut who was on Apollo 11. He stayed up in the capsule, and he recently passed away. And one of the things that I remember from my childhood in 1968 was the first vision of the moon. Or the Earth from the moon. And it was really quite spectacular. And it changed a lot of people's perception of, what we have on this little blue planet called Earth. And very often, Peter Velissis and I are really trying to help business owners take a step back from where they are in their business and take a different look at their business and look at their business and how it relates to everything else. And that's why we think that valuation is important. So, Peter, I'm just going to ask you to kind of set the stage with how we use our pie charts to engage with a business owner and to help them get a better understanding for who they are and what they do.
Sure. Thanks, Doug, and good morning to everybody. One of the challenges that Doug and I found over the years in working with business owners, particularly with our core competency in executive benefit plans, is that any planning for a business owner isn't really singular. Whether you involve their estate, retirement, succession, or key stakeholder planning, you really have to integrate and work with all of the others. Business owners sense this. When they get into it, then with their professional advisors, they're made aware of this. It becomes frustrating, it becomes complicated, and they sort of even shut down in the conversations. They want to procrastinate or they want to put it off. So we felt there needed to be a way to break through and to simply and easily explain to a business owner that we understand their position, we understand their frustration and the complexity, but there is a way to make this simple and it doesn't have to be on their back. And that sort of began this idea of what we call our pie chart story. So the two circles here on the graphic on screen, the top circle represents the total wealth of a typical closely held business owner. And for the most part, the largest piece of that pie represents the wealth and income derived from the business. It's their singular most valuable asset. And as Doug and I work quite a bit around the country with different financial advisors, they tend to really focus on that everything else, the house, the cars, the brokerage accounts, the qualified plans, the stuff, and tend to end up ignoring the value of the business and what it means until a business owner sort of initiates this. Now I'm getting ready to liquidate some or all of my interest in the business, typically for retirement or maybe other reasons. But it's just sort of this forgotten thing. And yet it's the most important asset they have. And so the pie chart quickly, I think, helps business owners, in our experience anyways, have them say, yeah, that's me. That's exactly right. That's what my total net worth picture looks like. What we then show in the bottom pie chart is that value, which Doug will be talking about here today, is extremely important to understand, because there's the liquidation value, the bare bones of if a disaster occurs to the business and say a death or permanent disability of the owner, divorce, loss of a partner, whatever unplanned, unexpected event could occur. If you don't have planning in place as the business owner, everything could collapse all the way down to its liquidation value. So we call the remainder there that value at risk. That value at risk can be protected if the proper planning is done, it's made current, it's complete, and it's coordinated. And so everything really does begin with valuation. So setting the stage that way, Doug, why don't we kick it off? And why begin planning with valuation then? What picks up from the pie chart story?
Well, as I talked about earlier, Peter, getting that perspective of how your business relates to everything else that you own is such an important perspective. And we really hadn't seen a lot of business owners take that step back. But before we go into what we do for a business owner, where we are more looking to protect the value of their business, we recognize that this pie chart is relevant really for all business owners, and it's also relevant for most of the other advisors that we interact with, because they are doing other types of things that are helped by understanding the value of the business. And what I mean by that is we have advisors that might be on this call, or business owners who have advisors where you're trying to grow the value of the business. That is not what Peter and I do. I mean, we want to protect the value, but we're not in the business of helping an owner grow the value of the business. There are others that help them manage the value, accountants, attorneys. And then there are people on the mergers and acquisitions side, the finance side, that help business owners unlock the value. But how can you really start any of these projects, any of these planning projects, without first understanding the value of the business and also the income from the business that is benefiting, that is available to the business owner? If you don't know that number, how do you start that type of planning? And so when we get involved, we do go to this bottom pie chart where we show the value at risk, because in the areas of planning that we work with, we want to make sure that whatever has been built, is not going to get lost. If you were to look at these pie charts in a slightly different way, if you're in the business of helping a business owner get organized so that they can grow the value of their business with whatever expertise you have, you might use this pie chart in a slightly different way, in that you want to just have a larger pie chart. It's showing that the business value has grown, and as the business value grows, then it might start to be a larger value in relationship to everything else. So just having this perspective, I think, is really beneficial. The other thing, and the last thing I wanted to mention in this segment, is that planning is hard. Working on your business is hard. And sometimes we get distracted or things come up. And what we've found, Peter, you'll agree with this, is that when we take the business owner back to the pie chart, it helps them refocus why they're doing this, and it helps them refocus their efforts on getting the planning done or getting the projects done in growing or unlocking the value of their business. Because you do get distractions in business, and that's a big deal.
So the thing that always has come up, though, is we have three basic questions that we ask business owners. When they roll out of bed in the morning, a business owner has a sense of whether their business is going up or kind of going down, a sense of momentum. Things are going well or they're not. And the second thing that we know most private business owners have is a number in their head. They have a sense of value. Most of them are fine using that from a planning perspective. Again, it's sort of that innate sense. of where things are at by looking at their financials, by looking at revenue reports, by looking at sales projections, contracts, bids, whatever's going on. They sort of have a number in their head. Why not just use that? Why belabor the point?
Yeah, it's true. I think most owners do have some sort of a number in the back of their head about what the value of their business is. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, they're goal-oriented individuals. If you're running a business, you should, be a goal-oriented individual. But just having a number that has not been proven out could prove to be very harmful, because you might be setting goals on a number that is not realistic or is biased in some fashion or another. So what we look to do is at least establish a fair market value for the business, so that as a business owner, well, how does the government see the value of my business? If I get into litigation, what is the value of my business? And then also use a valuation number that's done through a process that is in a closed-end system, which has some discipline. Then you can start to follow, is my business value growing or is my business value falling?
So I'll stop you there, Doug. When you think of valuation, though, isn't it expensive? Isn't it time consuming? I mean, there are professional valuation firms, and you hear, quotes, we see them $20,000-$30,000 in 2 or 3 months of people crawling, through your inventory and your records and whatnot. Who wants to do that?
Well, both that time and expense is rather tough for owners to do this. And if it's always going to cost that much money to get a valuation done, then we've got some issues there. And so I can see where the inertia has been for very few owners to get a valuation on a regular basis for their business because of the time and expense, which is why we turn to a company called BizEquity. And we use that software, which uses an algorithmic valuation process that has turned out to be really accurate. And it also draws from big data, so it can check the value of that business against other businesses. It's fast and accurate, and it's repeatable, so that I often have working with business owners where we're updating throughout the course of the year as we get better information about how the year is progressing. We update the numbers throughout the course of the year just to keep that valuation current. And then sometimes what we will do is we will work with wealth advisors to help those wealth advisors understand the value of the business, so that they can better manage the investments for the everything else portion. Because the business is an illiquid asset, and it has to be treated differently. So, more than 90% of business owners really haven't had a true valuation of their business. And I think that that's tragic. I think that business owners should have a better idea of what their valuation is and have a way to track it so that they can be more goal-oriented.
So you mentioned the BizEquity software and its accuracy, but still sounds expensive and time consuming. Why don't you, enlighten us a little bit more about what the reality is behind that?
Right. So it's on the expense side, it's $500, for a year, where you can update your valuation. If you're just talking about, dollars and cents, which is very reasonable if you break it down into a monthly cost. And what we allow owners to do, what we want owners to do, is to revisit this, 4 to 3 times, maybe 2 times at the minimum throughout the course of the year, so that they can be, current and accurate in doing their planning with their other advisors. They might be doing some estate planning work with their attorney. Well, they ought to know the value of their business. They might be looking to do some strategic acquisitions. They should know the value of their business. So it's a fast process. Getting the information in for the business owner shouldn't take more than an hour. So we can turn around valuation reports in a fairly short period of time while they're still paying attention. If you take too much time to get everything put together, I think that's when you run the risk that things just don't get done. So if I've got a business owner who is truly interested, I need to know the value of my business because I'm going to be doing something, or it's important for me to know this for my family's safety and security. We can get that done, turned around, we can have the conversations, and within a week, we've enlightened the business owner a little bit more into what's going on inside their business and what's driving the value as well.
All right, so we've got something that's fast, accurate, inexpensive, almost on the verge that too good to be true, but again, a powerful tool to get business owners engaged. Why don't we help the audience out? Walk us through, an example of exactly how this works.
Are you talking about the process of putting the information in, or what we do once we have that information for a business owner?
Yeah, no, the whole process of an example of why valuation is critical to the planning and sample an example of one of our clients that we've taken them through the process.
Sure. I mean, so these are round numbers, but we've had a business valued recently at $5 million approximately. And, we found that the liquidation value was about $1 million. And this owner was focused on investing, doing some changes to his investment portfolio for a $200,000 to $300,000 portfolio, trying to get, 20, 50 basis points more of return, wanted to be a little bit more satisfactory. But he had really done no planning to protect the value of that business. And when we were working with the wealth advisor, we just said, hey, you don't have near enough protection coverage. You haven't done the proper succession planning. You haven't done the proper estate planning. And the value of your business could fall greatly if something happens to you, whether you die or you become disabled. And he had a few key people as well, where they hadn't done the planning. So immediately the focus shifted from trying to invest a little bit more efficiently, a $200,000 to $300,000 portfolio, to really focusing on the real problem. That was, if everything went awry, he could lose $4 million of value, in the value of the business. And that's where we see the greatest impact, is to help the business owner appreciate what's going on. Because when we do the valuation, we're giving them 4 different numbers for valuation. And one of them is that liquidation value. And then we have enterprise asset and equity sale value. And it just depends how you want to use those things. But the higher values are typically what the owner is looking at. And that's what they think of as the value of their business when everything's going fine. What they really need to be looking at is, what's the value of my business if things start to go awry? Have I put the plans in place that will take care of them? And once again, I'm not saying that this is only for what we do, Peter. I think that measuring the value of a business, it definitely makes sense for anything else that you're trying to do. If you're looking to acquire a company, hire people, it's important to understand how that's going to impact the value of the company. And we can even do what if scenarios for business owners to say, if I grow my business this way, what is the growth in the value of this business for me?
Yeah, and I'd just like to add, I recently had an advisor and an estate planning attorney together, and what they really liked about BizEquity and using valuation for the planning process is the transparency. We're not doing the valuation, are we? It's the BizEquity data. It's a very transparent process, and they can trust those values, so that in your experience, are you finding that in the reality, business owners actually are accurate or inaccurate with their sense of the value of the business?
I would say that their range is, high, low, and sometimes accurate. So, they're probably within 20, 25% because they're using a rule of thumb. But I think the problem there is they don't know why. It's just a rule of thumb. And the danger of using a rule of thumb is it sometimes becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, so that you're just getting the value that now sounds good to you because that sounds consistent. And we've had business owners that are surprised. I did not know the value of my business was this high, or I am surprised that the business value is not as high as I thought that it would be, because Jane sold her business, which was similar to mine, for X, and I just thought that I could do the same. But there's no way to tell, why the sale price for Jane's business was, what she sold it for. Because you don't know all the internal workings of the negotiations of the sale and what she had done internally to improve the value of the company.
So I have to admit, partner, I'm stunned and amazed that we have hit the 20-minute mark, which is really, really good for us in keeping on point and on time. Are there any other thoughts that you want to add in, and also maybe reference resources, and then we can see if we can tackle the technology feed of handling any questions from the audience they may have?
Well, let me flip over to the resources. Obviously, Peter Valissis and I are in the business of protecting the value of a business owner's business. So a lot of our work focuses in on that. There is information that you can get on this from our website, and one of them is a business value protection planning workbook that takes you through some of the things that we've talked about here. It talks a little bit about valuation, and then the 4 key planning areas that we work with. You can read from that on the website. So it's marshallvalissis.com, and that's where the resource would be. You're also welcome, and you can get our contact information through the website if you had any questions about valuation per se and how it might relate to the other things, whether you're a business owner or you're an advisor to a business owner. How can you help protect a business owner's value and income, and also how can you help maintain that? How can you help unlock it? How can you help grow it? We're always open for questions, always open to chat, and that's where we are right now. We're
one other thing, you mentioned the workbook, but talk about inviting anybody who's interested and wants to see sort of BizEquity in action. We have a link where they can learn a little bit more about what's required and give it a test drive. Yes.
Yes. So if you are on the front page of the website, you can go to valuation resources, and you can just see the experience that the business owner has. So even if you don't have a business, you can go in and give it a test drive. You can just put some data in there, and we can circle back with you and let you know how it works. So you would just say, start evaluation now, put in some company information, put in your name, your phone number, your email address, and then we can circle back after you've put a little pieces of information in there to get an idea of what you experienced, any questions that you might have, to see, if this is something that you would want to incorporate into your business, or if you knew a business owner or you are a business owner who really needs to take a look at that and a serious look at, what is the value of the business.
That's it.
That's it. If there we'll give you 30 seconds for anybody to have a question. Okay, I've got a question here. What services do we provide after we do a valuation? So the services that we provide are, we will look at and do an evaluation of how the business owner is set up in the 4 key planning protection areas that will help make sure that they minimize the value at risk. And that is succession planning, retirement planning, estate planning, and key stakeholder planning. All of those areas, if not paid attention to, and if they are not coordinated, could result in value at risk. So we work both with advisors, attorneys, CPAs, other financial advisors, and we work directly with the business owners to help them do an evaluation of where are they today in their planning and what do they need to do.
Yeah, the real key there is that we have a disciplined system or process, if you will, to make sure that all 4 planning areas are reviewed. So we take a look at documents. We do coordinate with the other advisors the business owner has, and certainly can then bring in referrals if they lack an advisor. But our mantra is sort of all 4 areas must be current, and they must be complete, which includes not only current documents, but the funding and the planning of those documents. And then also that they have to be coordinated so that we don't have conflicts that we almost always find in an initial engagement, where, say, an estate plan is in conflict with what a buy-sell agreement may be saying. So we organize all of that so that the business owner is left doing what they do best, and that's just make decisions. They're comfortable making decisions. They're highly uncomfortable at having to orchestrate a process that involves so many different other advisors. And so that's really what the core element of it, what it is we do. And we're focused on the protection side, right? So we're not the advisors to come in and get a business dressed up for an exit plan. We don't bring in logistics advice on improving metrics on growth of the business. That's for other professional advisors that we work with. We're focused on the area of protecting the value and the income that is already there and making sure it's not lost due to an unexpected event.
Okay, we had a couple questions come in when you were talking, but I want to emphasize one thing before I respond to those. Peter and I believe deeply in the power of partnership with other professionals. We cannot do this without a close working relationship with CPAs and with attorneys. And we feel that where the industry has let business owners down is that we continue to work in our own silos. We're fighting against that all the time. We're promoting working together in a partnership arrangement. We think that that's extremely important, and that's going to make a world of difference if there is great communication and everybody is focused on the business owner represented in this pie chart. So a couple questions came in, and one of the questions was, do we have a minimum business size? I mean, there's only so much we can do for a very small business, but we are passionate where we are not going to exclude anybody. So if we have somebody doing $250,000, $500,000 of income, of gross revenue, we'll talk to them and we'll get them the business valuation or the business value protection planning workbook. We want them to have the resources so that they can be secure and grow because they still have value, they still have income. And I think that it's important for us not to exclude anybody. We might not be able to do a tremendous amount for that particular business, but we can at least point them in the right direction.
Yeah, I would think of it as a spectrum. So the mom and pop businesses, or say a very young startup business, most of that documentation is making sure that, for instance, if there's a couple partners or something like that, that they do have a succession plan. We'll be talking much more about that in the future, the importance of having that early on as opposed to waiting down the road for exit planning strategies. And when you get to the very large business, and the metrics are different, but if you get 500 employees, $100 million EBITDA, gross revenue, total sales value, whatever metric you want to use at that size, where the closely held company starts operating more as if they could be a public company, then the big consulting firms that are full service tend to dominate that element of the marketplace. It doesn't mean we can't help and advise business owners, uniquely in that area, but they kind of tend to muscle out for the most part. The core businesses, though, there are 10 million baby boomer businesses that will be transferring the wealth of their business over the next 10 years. The baby boomers are retiring. And so that core crowd of baby boomer owned business, say from the 50-year-old into the 70s, and haven't really done this planning, that's the core marketplace we work with.
Yeah. So two quick last questions here. Since we're running up against the half hour, are the 4 planning areas covered in the workbook? Yes, they are. This is our offering to anybody, whether you're a business owner or you're an advisor. Please feel free to download the workbook and take from that. We're looking to even update some of these things as we've learned some things that we would like to add to it. So the workbook is available for anybody. And then how does an initial engagement work with your firm and what's the initial cost? Really, the initial cost is doing the valuation and then sitting down with the owner and saying, hey, is this something that you want to take care of? And how do you feel that you're doing in each of these planning areas after we establish what the value is and what the value at risk, could be? And then we will set up a fee arrangement if they want to go forward. And then we will also put in the appropriate insurance coverages for them to protect them from death or disability for both the owner and the key employees right from the get-go. And then we will start the process of getting their planning all taken care of so it's current and coordinated and complete.
If you're in the advisory side as opposed to a business owner yourself, then our favorite phone call really is, I have this client. And just give us a phone call and in 20 minutes, tell us, what's your relationship? What are the challenges the business is facing? We'll help explain business value protection planning process. We're there to help make you the hero in the eyes of the business owner. And again, partnering with all of the disciplines that need to pull together to put the proper planning in place.
Yeah, generally a 20 to 30-minute initial call, whether you're an advisor or a business owner, will go a long way to explain what we're trying to accomplish. So we're at the end of the half hour. Really appreciate everybody participating in this and just listening in. And if you have any questions, you can certainly contact us directly. We'd love to talk to you, and have a great 4th of July weekend.
Happy 4th of July, everybody.